Woo! What a game.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Mark, I think it's pretty cool. We're actually going to get to hop into this press conference here for Immortals side. You ready for it?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions after that game.
Yeah, I feel like we rarely actually get to speak to anybody from the staff immediately after. So I'm excited to get into it. I believe it's the Immortals assistant coach, Coach Giss, that we will be joined by.
Hey. Oh, hello everybody. Yeah, settle down. I know it was a fun game. But I don't have too much time here. So let's make this brief. All right, I hear you also have some questions. You there on the left. Yeah, if you want to start us
definitely.
off.
I have a question about adaptation between games heading into game 2. Your top side got absolutely slammed.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have any plans there to try and protect Chad in the jungle or Concept in the top lane?
Well, first and foremost, a coach must never forget that they're a leader, and not just a person with authority. So as a leader, I take full responsibility for this one, okay? You get my drift. We have an agreement with Concept where he plays 3 games of Mundo, 3 games of Scion, and 3 games of Singed, and then he gets to pick his own champ. So I'm not too worried going into this next game. I think we'll have things sorted out by then.
All right, Coach Giss. You said that this was a fun game, so I want to know what was fun about it for you and the Immortals squad.
Well, you know what? What's fun is the learning process. Talent sets the floor, but character sets the ceiling, as they say. And this team has more character than anybody in Academy, okay? I wanted to go on record saying that. And I think that we showed our character
your talent
in the games today. Well, the talent is developing there, and we're getting to that point. Now, I've observed in my past, in my history of coaching, assistant coaching, that if individuals who prevail in highly competitive environments, okay, if they have one thing in common besides success, it's failure. And most importantly, their ability to overcome it. So I'd appreciate a little less snark from this press member. Back to the one that's nice to me. Any other questions?
Am I the nice one?
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes. So I know that you've been working a lot with your jungler, Chad. Is it difficult to contain the Chad energy that comes from somebody who decided to call himself Chad in the game of League of Legends?
Well, one thing with Chad in particular is he's a big personality. Okay, he's got a lot of opinions of the game, and so this is what I did. I'll tell you what I did. Okay, I took Chad into the conference room and I gave him a spoon, and he asked assistant coach Giss, "What's this spoon for?" And I told him, "This is your weapon. Okay, I want you to take this spoon and take a big old scoop out of Oceanic bot lane. Okay, and feed it directly into Arrow." No more chip bags for him, okay? I've taken those away. Now, Arrow is a little particular about his bowel movements and doesn't handle Vegemite too well. So that strategy maybe needs to have some revisions for this next one. But Chad's been working. He's been playing for the team now.
Speaking of changes for the next one.
Oh, no, not this one again.
I was just going to ask if, heading into game 2, you guys used the Ivern very successfully yesterday. It got banned out today. Do you guys have any other plans to copy-paste other Cloud9 drafts from the main roster to use against the Academy roster? Maybe some sort of mind games against them?
Well, again, I appreciate less snark from these questions. But, ever since Pretty got that pentakill on Kassadin, he's been itching for another shot at glory. So I think you can expect some big things coming from this player, all right? We don't copy other strategies. We don't adapt other philosophies. We got our own view of the game and how we want to play it, and sometimes it involves things that other teams are doing, but that's strictly coincidental. Okay, there's no stealing of strategies going on here. Final question please, because I do have to get going here. I got a team to run.
Final question. It's about Arrow.
Yeah.
I know you're probably dealing with some of an inflated ego ever since his announcement that he's going to be on a TV show, but he's still an important player here in the lineup. How much are you all working to enable him on these late game carries that have worked out occasionally for you in the squad?
Well, Arrow's he's been around the scene for a while. He's been an MVP in the LCS. Gosh darn it. So all we got to do is give him the tools he needs that he's comfortable with. and let him do his thing. As for his acting skills, I would say hold your judgment on that one. Wait till the show comes out, and don't get too excited. But you know what? We're going to cheer him on regardless. I do have to get going. So no more questions. Thank you all for your time. And I'll send it back to the casters to get us ready for game number 2.
Yes. Thank you, Coach Giss. Thank you, Coach Giss. My question is, though, Mark, so Immortals is now where is Salt Lake City? Or so
Utah?
that's where they are? Or Utah? Yeah.
I guess.
They're like based out of the Midwest, right?
I
was wondering because Coach Giss had like full on Midwest accents going, so I'm wondering if they picked him up there, and I couldn't remember.
I think he was just copying a lot of football coaches. I couldn't say. I did like the question about the Arrow's acting. I wonder, would he rather have an Emmy or an LCS MVP? Like, what is the more prestigious award if the acting really goes well?
Or he could get the he's got the MVP, and then he could go to production side for LCS and then grab an Emmy there too.
Yeah.
Little shout out to the production squad and Stacked. Just got to show some love that way. All in all, with this, so we still do have Immortals taking on Cloud9, and Cloud9 in full effect. It was from early on, right, Mark? We saw the invade happen to really make sure that Malice could be comfortable. If you're looking at Immortals, is there anything that you would like to see just even in those early stages to try and set up and maybe prevent some of that early aggressive play that Cloud9 bring through?
I think what you said about preventing early aggressive play onto Chad in particular is something that I think is going to be really important for them, whether that be warding other stuff out when the invades come in, because Chad sometimes I feel like can fall behind the enemy junglers, and if you start off on the wrong foot, it's much more likely to happen.
Well, I believe somebody else may have some thoughts too. We got Kangas joining us once again from wherever he's at.
Hello.
Hey.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Kangas.
I saw you at the press conference. I was hanging out in the back. Sorry, I guess you missed me there. But sorry, I'm a little late for this.
Would you have had any questions if you could have asked any questions to the Immortal Academy coach? Do you have anything that you wish you could ask him?
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody asked him his thoughts on the level 1 invade that Cloud9 threw their way, because that really got the ball rolling for that top lane. And then Darshan's solo kills after that meant the concept was just out of that game. Like, that top half of the map was taken over from like the first 30 seconds. It was insane.
Yeah, that was a big problem, it looked like to me. And from my time watching Chad, he often goes for like a bot camp strategy, but when he needs to play more efficiency focused junglers, it does feel like he can struggle at times. Just even looking at the game yesterday where he was on Gwen and he fell like 40 CS behind when you have the supportive mid. Like, usually you're supposed to be the one getting enabled, especially in the mid game, by these kind of enchanter around the map kind of strategies, and when your Gwen falls behind, it doesn't look so great. Here on the Viego, while it's not super clear focus, like when he gets set behind, it seems like a big issue for them. So hopefully Chad can get off to a better start in game 2.
Yeah, Chad and also the Tigers, we were talking earlier about concept and this player in the top lane. More of a facilitator for the team usually. Plays a lot of those tanks, a lot of those frontliners. Interesting to see Immortals Academy pivot towards the Gwen instead and try and enable him more, because when I look at this draft, I don't know, is this like too high priority on the Gwen, or is this like just they're trying something different for concept? Kind of what's your temperature read on that?
It is something that makes me want to know about what their long-term process is for this player and just learn more about him in general, because you see him come in with the Dr. Mundo, you see the Singed, and just these unique picks that not everyone else is piloting, and you're thinking, oh, did they decide, hey, this is a pick that we would like to have in our arsenal, let's try and get you comfortable on the Gwen and see what happens? Or there's the other side that a lot of top laners just like playing Gwen, a lot of them saying that they really enjoy the skill expression and just trying to get a pick like something that they can be comfortable with. I mean, Kumo, for instance, right, that was spending a lot of time in Academy and is now back in LCS, likes the champ specifically because of that skill expression. So getting to see concept try to really branch out a bit in that way on the Academy virtual stage is interesting, and you wonder how much of it is him wanting to really work into other parts of that pool versus Immortals finding other ways to work around the strategy.
Sorry.
And yeah,
I was gonna say, I wonder also how much was the flex pick. If they took it early and then wanted to see where it was gonna end up, and then maybe some of the bans in the second phase or something made them opt into top lane, and then they were like, oh crap, we want to support this with something. Let's go TF, even though it just got nerfed on this patch. So I do wonder how much of that was what they went into the draft and going into today, what they actually wanted versus what the changes they were forced into by the Cloud9 draft.
And Marksy, also the concept is, this is something that I like to track over the last couple of years of Academy. I call it the Darshan treatment. When a new top laner in the league finally gets to match up against Darshan. This guy's been playing at LCS for years, has been in Academy, performing very well, still at the same level. And I love having him in Academy personally because of what younger top laners can learn from playing against a player like Darshan, because not everybody will pull out the Fiora as that pick into the Gwen. A lot of them would go for something a little more defensive, a little less risky, but we know Darshan is a player that can pilot.
I think it's really funny because Darshan also just plays like literally everything, and so for Concept, who has like a weird champ pool, it might throw some other people who are like, oh no, what do I do against Singed? And Darshan can be like, I remember Impact Singe. This is what I used to do. So like, right? I do feel like he's a harder player to pitch curveballs to, and has that kind of champion pool that can answer whatever you pull out.
But I am hearing that, well, we don't have to wait too long to figure out what Immortals' answer is going to be, especially for that top lane, because Pick and Ban is ready. So, the Tigers, I'm going to pass it back to you to get us ready for the conclusion of this best of 2 series.
All right, let's get it. Immortals progressive. Cloud9, game number 2, baby. I'm kind of hoping we get a little bit of a swing here, Mark. I know that a lot of Cloud9 fans are hoping for the 6-0 week, but nothing makes me happier than a little bit of seesaw action in the other direction.
Yeah, I think I would also like to see Malice on one of his more interesting champions. I know he played Udyr once before this game. It's a possibility that he's going to play it again. But it's like, I watched Chemtank Udyr all last year, show me the more interesting things. I was so happy when I saw we were casting Cloud9 Academy games for the schedule to be like, ooh, I can't wait to see what I get to cast Malice play. And then I'm like, what? Udyr? Really?
Yeah.
So hopefully there's a little bit more spice in this game, especially where there were no Enchanter mids that came out. It ended up actually being a relatively standard draft, aside for that Fiora.
I get enough Udyr play when I'm watching Trick2G. I don't really need more outside of that. So yes, I am right there with you, Mark, and hoping that maybe something else comes through for this very, very exciting jungler that C9 have brought into the fray with Malice and how he's able to affect the rest. But here we are in Champ Select, so we're not going to be getting any of that Ivern play. Second game in a row where Cloud9 have elected to ban it away, and you know that they do have experience probably playing against it in their internal scrims and stuff. But
yeah, I was gonna say it's a bit of a tell even to the main team about how strong they think Ivern mid really is, that their first phase banning it, knowing that Pretty played a little bit. It's also been seeing some play in Champions Queue. I was watching a Pobelter stream and other people's stream, and I think everyone was a little shocked at how strong it is. Its laning phase is nothing to laugh at. When it gets the empowered damage on its auto attacks, it actually trades pretty well. Daisy is just absolutely so frustrating to play against, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see this champion's priority keep rising as soon as someone shows they play it. This first phase ban is showing just how much respect it deserves.
You're just seeing how different an HP bar can look after the trigger seed's activated. Oh my. Okay, so Malice has played a little bit of Hecarim, bringing it back here once again for Cloud9 Academy. And then Isle's a trusted hook champ right now in Nautilus to accompany the good old Aphelios in the bot lane to add a little bit of that CC. And then it's Gwen still getting locked in for Immortals to change up in their bot lane strategy, but consistency in that third pick.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how quickly Cloud9 is slamming these picks down. They pretty much insta-lock the Hecarim Nautilus. They know where they want their draft to go. I'm excited to see, like I was hoping for, Malice on that little bit more aggressive champion. It is a little annoying to have to play into Thresh, any of these kind of diving champions. You have to be really smart about when you go in. It is unstoppable, the initial charge, but then if you're trying to get your E to follow, you don't want to get hooked or flayed or boxed, and you lose a lot of damage once one of those slows hit you. So it can be a little tough to pilot into it, but I mean, they already saw the Thresh locked in, so that's Malice kind of saying, yeah, I know, I've played into it before, I know what to do.
Definitely feels kind of similar to Real Horse, I guess. They're going, and sometimes it's hard to get them to stop. So, hey, if you have good control of the reins, And you're trusted.
You're hooking the horses in real life. I was like, what? What are you doing?
You know, it wasn't a great metaphor, Mark. It wasn't a perfect one, but well, have you ridden a lot of horses?
No, not a ton.
I have, and bareback, and it is kind of scary. And that's what I think of when you see him just like run off and then you can't really do anything to stop it. But maybe that's just my bad horse piloting skills, and maybe I shouldn't be allowed on one again. Anyway, we're in the second round of bans, and guess what? Ari, no more. People tired of seeing her. Too good from Copy in game number 1, and not allowed to play her in game number 2.
Yeah, I think Ari, like I said, was a little surprised to see it get through a little bit in the previous one. She's just such a generalist champion that, like, when she's strong, she has good matchups, she's safe, she can make plays. The tweaks that came in on this patch have made her more in that generalist direction. She's just very strong all the time, and without being so tied to her charm as well, she's a little less burst focused while still being able to build the Everfrost and bring all that lockdown.
So we've got a Zilean locked in for Immortals side, and we already know that the Thresh is going over to Joey. I wonder, because I know that when Bjergsen was bringing out the Zilean mid, and Azalea tweeted about how, you know, only one in pro play to actually play the pick mid and such. I wonder across Academy if there have been a lot of people to bring out.
At least this is Pretty's first time. Pretty does have a pretty big champion pool, so it's not too surprising to see him reach for something. There's not a clear target that they want to synergize the Zilean pick with in the jungle. Maybe that ends up being the Gwen, and you get to speed her up and throw bombs on her head. Maybe it's just for the Jinx late game. But then King locking in for Copy the Cassidy right away is a very interesting answer. It's not a matchup I've seen in years, I'm pretty sure, the Cassidy and Zilean matchup. So that is definitely one that I'm going to have to see how it plays out. But you have to imagine it's going to be a little favor for Zilean really early on. But Cassidy these days, actually, his laning phase and his early mid-game power spike at 6 and 11 is no joke with the new itemization, the runes that you take on him. He really begins to slap pretty hard, a lot earlier than the 16 Cassidy power spike in the days of old.
Slap hard and so difficult to lock down in the later portions of the game. So excited to see Copy bring in a different pick to this game number 2 of this best of 2 series. All right, and then the Urgot locked in for Concept, I believe, having played this pick just yesterday in their earlier matchup. So it's not like he's unfamiliar and getting to revert back to that. And we get the Gwen. So a different matchup in terms of what is added in the mid lane here, because obviously no Ivern, but still that supportive capability. Mark, thoughts on the 2 comps we're seeing?
It's a hard one to predict. There's not a ton of support for the Hecarim. It's kind of just a straight Hecarim. There's no Enchanter shenanigans really going on. The Zilean as well. There are people that you don't mind buffing up, but I think a large part of this is just 1-3-1 versus straight up team fighting. The Hecarim will be trying to dash between the lanes again when it's the Akali and the Kassadin splitting up, and we'll have to see if, you know, the bot lane, especially if Arrow can start stacking the dragons early and force these 1-3-1ers to come to contest the dragon.
I'm so glad that we get a lot of shakeup though in the second game of our first series of the day. Into the game we go. Immortals and Cloud9 taking one another on. Immortals are on red side this time around, so a little bit of a different start for them. But yeah, Darshan, you were talking about the fact that this is a player that can pretty much play anything, has been around the world in terms of the champion pool, so no surprise for him to be able to slot onto that Akali, just like a lot of the top laners have been willing to bring out as that potential top lane threat. So here we go, taking to the Rift in game number 2.
Yep, and like we talked about before, playing a lot of matchups as well, so he should have some familiarity with the Akali Urgot matchup. It was one that was actually relatively prevalent in 2018 or 2019 Worlds, I can't remember, but there's a period of time where there were a number of Juggernaut and Assassins that kind of all came back at the same time. You had Akali, Aurelia, and then you also had like kind of Urgot Aatrox around the same time as well. So I think these champions have squared off in the top lane before, but it's very different now. The Chem Tank Akali is kind of dead with the most recent changes on 12.3 about getting stacks not from you attacking, but getting attacked. Something that Akali doesn't really want to do in the early lane phase, get attacked very much. So we'll see if it's just the straight AP build, which I expect it to be. And then Concept on the Urgot was a huge part of their win actually yesterday. It was overshadowed by some of the stuff going on with the Ivern, for example. But he got a lot of attention thrown his way and was able to absorb pressure and take multiple men to fight him off of things.
And sometimes that's the best thing you can do, just making yourself the target of a lot of enemies, and then suddenly the rest of your team is that much safer. So we'll see if he can pull the same feat again today. No crazy starts this time around. Last game when Immortals were blue side, they just went to check for that intel over on bot through the typical brush pathing, and then eventually Malice made his way for that jungle invade. This time around, Concept giving a little bit of that help towards Chad in the jungle over on the top side, and meanwhile Malice on the Hecarim with this bot side start over by Raptors. So looking to bring that power potentially up top if need be. A ward was dropped down over from Immortals though, so they could have a little bit of intel in that top side jungle and know that no one has crossed that path just yet.
Yep, Concept should know that the gank's coming up there. Not a surprise considering Urgot with the shotgun knees always ends up pushing the wave a little bit. It's very hard not to do it. So Hecarim will be clearing up to that top side to put some pressure on around when that wave is crashing ideally. And like you said with the Gwen for Chad, nice to see him getting a protected start this time around, not getting it contested right out the gate. Able to get his buff successfully this time and off to a good clear, which I was saying, you know, I want to see more out of him. There's times where it feels like his game plan is camp arrow and that's it, and Gwen is not that kind of champion, and so I don't want to see him just fall behind Malice, who is an extremely smart jungler with pathing and can punish you if you're not being efficient.
And Chad Unlocked is definitely a sight to see. Anybody that was tracking his path through Pro last year, where he was on 100 Thieves Next, worked a lot with Kenvi, specifically stepping in when Kenvi and Insanity had traveled with the 100 Thieves LCS roster to Worlds to help them out, and had a great showing there. So when he's unlocked, it's great. When you start by getting invaded and killed right off the top, not so much. So already a much better position, having a little bit of that hand holding right at the start. Over in mid though, Zilean, those bombs can be very, very stressful for an enemy mid laner when you have a lot of the pressure like this, and even Chad hanging on by to ensure with Joey that they get their mark.
Yeah, I expected this to be a little tough for the Kassadin early on with the range advantage plus the bombs and the slows that can come through and guarantee those bombs land. But it's going even a little worse than I thought it would, as Malice is going to take a look at Concept here in the top lane.
Gets pushed back by Malice, baits out the flash from Concept, and C9 says that's enough for us to be happy about this play.
A little disappointing that Concept loses his flash there. The invade by Malice was pinged out very quickly by the side of Immortals from the mid lane ward. They knew for sure that he was in the top side jungle, and there's no camps to do. So all Malice really has to do in the entire game is to gank your lane, and you let him burn your flash. So that definitely feels a little bad. You're not sure if he recalled or not, but Concept set on the back foot a little bit early on from that one.
Definitely more vulnerable, and now Malice is making his way back over towards that bot side, though it's even more lit up by Immortals wards than before because they knew where that rotation was going. They were able to safely place them a lot when Joey made his position known over by that mid side, was able to drop those down on the retreat. Teleport exhausted right here by Darshan just to be able to get back to lane. So no one in too dangerous territory just yet. Chad still focusing on his clear.
Yeah, I like what Pretty did as well. He pulled the wave on the Zilean right around this power spike where Copy's going to be getting 6. He's got his first purchase off, so he's got the tears. Ooh, nice hook.
Oh, following in with the flay to boot, root onto arrow, and even with the AoE gun from King, does a lot of damage. King has to flash out of it. Some more sustain, a little bit of a slash right here from Miles, and right there in the mid lane, Copy also the subject of a lot of damage, but does survive. So in the meantime, it's 1 for 1 on the kill board for the teams.
Yeah, both 80 carries dropping down, the supports left alive. Not what you want to see necessarily. It was a nice start for Joey and Arrow, but I think it was a bit of a miscommunication. I'd have to see. But I think the Flame Chompers were put in such a way that the Flay ended up pulling them off of them. And then that allowed Arrow to get jumped on right away. So maybe it could have been a little cleaner, but a very close fight. Not going to change up the lane phase too much, though. A lot of summoners down. The only mismatch is Arrow has flash and Isles has flash.
Oh, Malice getting nice and speedy on the horse. Concept dodging his way out of it, but down bot King was left alone, so He dies. Arrow getting the kill on that one. Joey falls, though, as well, off of that aggression under the turret. So 2-2, a little bit of a different trade this time around. But Chad starting up on the Drake, nonetheless. A little too low to finish it off, though.
Yeah, having a little bit of a problem there. The Drake's going to reset, start healing up. Chad, we saw it on stream, buddy. He threw the thumbs up emote. Unlucky there. I think he thought that his bot lane was going to come help him do it, but instead they got a kill onto King. So I would say still good for the bot lane, but maybe you have to evaluate if the 1-for-1 was better than the Dragon. Concept, I gotta say, good job getting out of there. Malice's E kind of overshot him. Here we see on the stream, this is exactly what I was talking about with the hook flay chompers working correctly this time to get the kill. Not pulling him off of them until they actually lock him down. So well done by Joey there. Hook over the wall. Nice setup. 2 clean hooks onto the AD carry so far, putting some pressure on a King.
It feels like this is what you can look towards too when you're trying to answer the question, what has been going on with IMT? How do they go 4-0 but then fall into a 1-7 deficit and then go 2-0 just yesterday? Because when they're layering and they have that communication online and it works effectively, even in that past replay, you can see they can execute well. But then there are occasional instances where, oh, jungler's here starting an objective, lane's not ready to rotate yet. Didn't quite layer up our abilities just right. But that gives you promise for IMT fans when you see it executed well, and it's things that they can shore up over time. Ultimate from Malice, just to be able to get that nice scoop of Joey to kill him off and get an advantage for Cloud9 side.
Yeah, Malice just brute forced himself in there. That was well done. Ult onto the far side of Joey. The fear plus the E back will take you out of turret range. You saw Arrow tried to trap him under turret, but the combination of those displacement abilities got Malice just out of range so that he didn't actually go down in the trade. A nice 1-for-0 there. And the horsey is off to the races.
Off to the races up top, which means Chad this time can more safely start up the Dragon over on the bot side. Does have his support Joey here if needed, but that'll be the first one claimed, which means in 5 minutes time it's the Ocean Drake that'll spawn up soon. Joey rotating around to try and get a pick onto King. They throw the chompers to zone King off towards the lane, but it's not enough for King to survive. Great positioning by Arrow and Joey to make this work.
Oh god, King is just getting exposed a little bit here. Whenever Isles leaves the lane or they have desynced recalls, it's leading to his death 3 times already pre-10 minutes. Gonna really start falling behind now. 20 CS behind already. The turret plate's going in Arrow's favor. Arrow getting 2 of those kills himself. It's a matchup that can go bad very quickly. The Nautilus into Fresh one, as well as the fact that Aphelios from behind can be a little tough since you have no mobility.
Nope. And Arrow, on the other hand, with Jinx, pretty good positioning in the team fights later on in games where they get the wins. And if you're getting these early leads, you're feeling that much safer in arriving at that point later on that will allow Immortals to truly display some power. On the back, though, Isles gets the Q to hit. Flash forward from Arrow. Nice knock-up as well from the ultimate as we are level 6. Finally, Joey flashes out of it. Malice is directly under the turret, and he's tanking it up, but a good old root onto Gwen will keep him in place. Needlework sets the eyes over on Isles, and in the meantime, King in the backline dies again for 4 on the board. Arrow slapping out with the autos as much as he can. A final time bomb winds on down to the clock to 0, and it's a kill in favor of Immortals. Bot lane eliminated from Cloud9.
Yeah, you can just feel Cloud9's game plan here. Go bot lane, force a ton of action, and try and shut Arrow down. But every single time it feels like, you know, Immortals bot lane's still able to make a play. Joey here intercepts that initial kind of attempt onto Arrow and kites it out. Joey giving up his life for his AD carry, forcing King into a bit of an awkward spot. Isles is also trapped up, and so while Malice is able to kind of get that cleanup kill, the reinforcements have arrived. Joey had made them take long enough in finding those kills that the rest of Immortals are able to get these chase down 2 kills. And Arrow is totally fed now. He's got 3, 1, and 2 himself. And what I was kind of saying there about the lack of mobility, there's also a lack of peeling and protection on Cloud9's side. Everyone else goes in. You have 4 people who go in and an Aphelios, whereas on the Immortal side, you have the Zillion protection as well as the Fresh protection.
And now, because of that pressure, they were able to execute and rotate towards this top side. Immortals can grab this first Rift Herald for themselves. So neutral objectives in their favor. A very different look than what we saw from them during the last game when Malice was able to get that early stacking down. So King just falling under so much fire, whether it be in the 2v1 when left in his lonesome, or even in these multiple player engages. So Immortals looking a little fiery this time.
Yeah, looking a lot better this game. I mean, it's hard to have a worse start than your jungler getting killed on his buff level 1 and then your top laner getting solo killed. So much better this time around for Immortals. I think Arrow being this win con who's off the ground is huge for how the comp wants to function, as well as having this Rift Herald. I'm curious if they're going to try and put it mid lane to break it open and put some pressure down here.
Oh, copy. The bomb is expired. Chad, Malice pushing him back, throws up the Howling Mist, and Onslaught of Shadows to get Malice out of there.
Yeah, I like seeing the aggression here by Chad and Pretty, knowing that their 2v2 is much stronger. If Malice and Copy can hop on and insta-give the Zillion, sure, that might be a way to win that 2v2. But otherwise, the Gwen's DPS combined with Pretty's protection means that there's no way for them to actually take that fight. They have to go full-on retreat. And I wanted to see if they drop it mid lane to break that open and kind of start messing with the 1-3-1 here, or if they want to use it top lane to just keep accelerating Arrow. Looks like it could be the mid play, though, with Copy being low, Chad wrapping around.
He's been feeling the pressure of these bombs, saying, come on, man, they just keep landing on my head. Rift walk out of there with the double up so that Chad can't finish it off. Good old Lantern to get out safely for Immortals. But they effectively push off Copy, who now no longer has a flash available to him and has just been so pressured by the range of Pretty during these early stages of the game.
Yeah, this has been such a good game for Immortals, moving the pressure around so well. It is used mid. This is kind of what I was hoping for, actually. I think it's a little bit better to put the pressure, speed the game up, take the mid lane turret so you have better control, so when they go in their 1-3-1, you can push in the mid wave even further and get better angles for flanking and cutting off the potential Kassadin or Akali gameplay. But Akali's been a non-factor this game. There's a nice CS lead that Darshan has accrued with all that pressure that Malice sent up to the top lane. They've done a good job of getting him off the ground, but Copy has not had the same fortune. He is 0-0-0, not like he's had a bad game, but just unable to influence the map quite yet. Kassadin, like we said, level 6 starts to turn online, but really level 11, especially if you get your Everfrost completed, you get your tier finished off, and you can start really doing some damage in these team fights and be annoyingly hard to kill yourself.
And I feel like because he's been so annoyed, he said, can somebody do something about Zillion for me, please? I'm so annoyed with the bombs. He's just been such a pain point for me. So by Immortals recognizing the fact that it would be originally difficult for us to get this Drake because, hey, they crashed into our turret. There's not much that we can do about that. Let's just give this over to Immortals, rather. Immortals on that side trying to... Oh, no, never mind. All right, so it's blue team actually getting all switched up right here. Immortals over on the top side. Take the blue. You know, they do that side swapping.
Yeah. This time Immortals on the red side. They give up the dragon. I'm a little surprised to see them not put higher priority on stacking Drakes against the 1-3-1 team and kind of force them to fight you. But they're also very happy to just keep accelerating Arrow, who's already finished off his Kraken Slayer. He's going to grab even more gold here. They're making a very conscious effort, it feels like, to snowball the AD carry win con and kind of just let Concept be on an island, take kind of these CS deficits, and do kind of what he did yesterday that I was hyping up, where, you know, he was kind of weak side, but it took a lot of resources to take him down. Urgot can get very tanky and hard to deal with.
I've unscrambled my brains, y'all. If we're talking about the fact that Arrow and Concept can be a threat, if we're looking over to the Cloud9 side, Aphelios has a little bit of that mobility finally available just because of the Gale Force, an extra level of security that Aphelios doesn't get to work with until finishing off that Mythic. Meanwhile, on the opposite side, though, we do have that Kraken Slayer finished off for Arrow, just pushing into that power that he has established thus far. So, gold lead still in favor of Immortals, a few K in the lead to their name, with a lot of power points across the map where Immortals are having to respond, and even the vision control over on that top side favoring for Immortals as well. Multiple control words displayed out, matching the wording in that top blue side jungle territory so that they can keep better eyes on Malice when he makes his rotations, who is just right now going to be leaving the base.
Yep, and now 3 minutes on the next dragon, so quite a while before they actually need to force any plays. And with the mid lane already broken, I think what they're trying to do is get the last outer turret down. So they shove in the mid wave, they start moving through this jungle, and they land a nice hook.
These hooks from Joey, really good. Ends up getting the onslaught of shadows out from Hecarim off of that because of the fear of getting hooked in this case. And the turret is pretty low right now, so Immortals being able to grab it. Isles, the dredge line onto Chad. Darshan goes in, but the turret does fall, so he has to retreat to the rest of his team, so he does not give his life in the process. Pretty on the outskirts drops one bomb onto Malice. Malice looking to his team, saying, can anybody help me from this one?
Oh,
Rooted
no.
with the eventual follow-up. Flash forward and another hook from Joey goes on in, and a smackdown from Concept with the ult to finish off the horsey and make him into glue.
Oh no, the image is too visceral. Gets grinded up there. Malice taken down. This Zillion counter pick, I really like it the more I'm watching it into this Hecarim, because you just throw your slow on him and there's so little that Hecarim can do. Hecarim is such a move speed reliant champion, not just for positioning and landing all your abilities, but also the damage scaling off your move speed and stuff. So when you just can't get anywhere, it looks painful, and such an easy collapse there. And you got to see also Concept's long range ultimate pulling him in. This is looking like a very good game now. 4,000 gold lead effectively on Immortals' side. Here we'll take another look at that play. Just like I said, you get the mid push and you rotate through the jungle to make sure that the 1-3-1 gets cut off when they're trying to make these pushes in the side lane. There, Darshan wasn't even trying to push. He was just trying to hold his turret, you know. And then this lack of control carries over. They kind of lose track of the Zillion, thinking like he's not going to be making a play in our jungle. But psych, that's exactly what Pretty's doing.
You can see the panic too. Oh no, I got one bomb on me. I can't go this way, that way. I'm in the jungle. Where do I go? Guys! And just the inevitable wind down of the clock before he eventually gets popped. So Immortals, really great chance in this game for them to just keep capitalizing upon the leads that they have established. They got the first Rift Herald. Now they're able to grant themselves a second. And with every forward positioning that they push these waves, their dominance over Summoner's Rift becomes that much more clear, just with the way they're able to move across. And Joey, this is a player that during last year got a lot of his name off of being able to be a good engage for the team, knowing when to go in, knowing when to find these picks, whether it's with the hook champs, whether it's with someone like Rakan. So to see him fall so nicely once again into this thresh with that level of comfort, as right there you go, you just hook with another death sentence, play away, arrow here off of the lantern, thumbs up from Joey for a little bit of that extra spice, and the burn down from Darshan can't keep him up. He throws out an ignite, but it's still not enough for a trade. The enemy top laner taken down for his first death.
Yeah, feels like there's aimbot right now for Joey. He's landed so many hooks in laning phase, initially picking on King. Now he's showing Darshan what he's got, you know, finds that clean kill. Very well done. Right before Dragon as well. Darshan will spawn about 10 seconds late. He has TP, but if Immortals just choose to burn this down, they'll be able to get it right away. Cloud9 have totally abandoned that Dragon. They say, you only have one right now. We're going to go grab gold up on the top side. And Immortals, instead of going on the Dragon, looking to make some plays here. A little scary with how much they have on the top lane.
And there's a lot of speedy champions from C9 on that top side that can make the rotations through. So King does have Isles now here mid, but that's the second Chili that's going to get dropped over on the side. Root onto the Zillion because they saw the flank coming, but King, look at that burst down. Needlework goes a little bit to the right, but it doesn't matter if Chad can just get over the wall. And I feel like Joey already is always there to just say, hey, go on in because I've got a lantern for you to escape as soon as you need it. And a good crash down with a second crash to get 2 turrets of value in the mid lane in favor of Immortals.
All right, I respect it. I was like, why not just do the Dragon right away? Well, how about we get multiple kills and multiple turrets in our favor? King picked off there, able to grab the 2 turrets right after each other. Then you fall back, grab the Dragon. You know, like I was saying, the Drake stacking is not really even a win con at this late in the game where you're only on 1 and coming up on 20 minutes. So now that I think about it, I really do like the more aggressive play of putting pressure down with that Rift Herald and finding a kill when C9 steps up to defend their turret. And Joey with these hooks, I mean, just a clear MVP of this game right now. Snowballed the the Jinx right away. You know, Arrow got off the ground, a large part because of him. And now he's just moving all over the map, picking on everyone.
Oh, love to see it from Joey. And now Cloud9, if they're looking for their ways, they can try and apply some pressure themselves. Pretty had pushed that wave in so much bot. Let me pause on that thought, though, because it looked like a little bit of follow-up potentially. Joey's not quite in range to be able to land one of those super S-tier death sentences that he has in the past. But as saying before, Pretty, before he made that rotation towards that fight, was ushering that wave down bot so much. So it took so much effort from Copy here to even try and get that wave push forth on that turret that they had done so much damage to in the side lane prior, that how are they going to eventually capitalize and create some leads for themselves in this time? Immortals just exerting so much control.
Yeah, so much control for Immortals. I also got to give a head tap to Chad. He was someone who I said I want to see a little bit more out of on this Gwen pick than even I saw yesterday in one of their wins. This time around, keeping pace with Malice, a better 10 CS lead in his favor, actually. So he's had a really good game as well. And now, post 20 minutes, 6k gold lead. You can kind of just posture around the Baron. And if this dive comp that we're talking about even kills Jinx, she's still coming back up with the help of Pretty. So it feels very difficult for Cloud9 to have it in to win one of these team fights.
And one of the greatest successes yesterday was the fact that Arrow being able to be so protected on that Jinx. And yes, because of things like the Zillion ult that you just mentioned, that still exists within this context, just a very different look to it. So Immortals knowing their exact strategy, as now they bring down that fire towards the top lane. Darshan pushing all the while on that bot side to get the bounty for themselves too with the execution of that turret. But just look how nicely Immortals can burn down onto this tier 2. Cloud9 can't do anything about it in the 4v4, so they have to retreat and bring their sights over towards the mid lane so this continued pressure doesn't become too much of a nuisance.
Yeah, I mean, Darshan's doing what he can in the side lanes as Isles stepping a little too far forward, potentially.
Dredge line escape. Chad sweeping for the continuation. Even has the bombs and the speed up. Pretty saying, I got you. Look at everything that I can provide. Chad throwing down some needlework. A good dredge line to avoid a lot of the damage here from Arrow, but it's still, oh, just so close. One more hit. Arrow gets it. Take down Nautilus and send him back into the sea.
Nicely done there by the entire team, getting that long chase down sequence. Pretty with the speed up, onto Arrow. Joey tried to go Giga Brain there and give the lantern for Arrow and find a hook onto King again. Wasn't able to do it. The kill is nice, not really any objectives to grab after it, and actually allows C9 to get some lanes pushing in their favor. They're able to get mid lane pushed in, didn't take that turret. Copy got some pressure in the top side down, so you know, sucks for Isles that he ended up dropping, but he did a good job trying his best to stay alive with his hooks through the jungle, Spider-Manning his way through.
Yeah, that's a very chunky Spider-Man. And
he does some damage to the buildings that he hooks onto, definitely.
He drags the buildings down to the ground. A little bit of Hulk action with him too. A little bit of hook action over the wall though, again from Joey to isolate Malice. Onslaught of Shadows baited out once again for the escape. Doesn't feel good as the Hecarim when you're having to use the movement to disengage more than engage.
Yep, forced out, no ultimate available now, chunked out as well, so this gives time for the side of Immortals to force this Baron down low, and even if they contest, there's no ultimate on the Hecarim now to get over any walls.
They're burning it down. 20%.
Not even close.
Darshan and friends are on the outskirts, but they can't do anything about it. Darshan stepped up into stasis. He goes, but it's a big pool of Immortals progressive, ready to bring him into Salt Lake City and drown him. Immortals just looking too good with their Baron take.
Yeah, there's no reason for C9 to really contest that, but also if you give it up, you're going to lose anyways, so I can kind of see what Darshan's thinking there, but gets hooked over the wall. Joey, yet again, spoon-feeding the entire team. 90% kill participation right now. The only other one with that is, of course, Arrow, the main recipient of the spoon-feeding.
Baron buff, all empowered for Immortals. 4 crashing over into the top side, sending Chad to usher that wave towards the mid inhib. We saw Cloud9 take them in a nice sweep last game, and now it's Immortals looking to dish that same flavor back with 2 of them. The wave down bot is pushed up too much in Cloud9's favor, so they can't quite go for the 3, but they know when to back off of this and get a little bit of a reset, taking some of the jungle along the way.
Such an impressive game for Immortals. I really like how a bunch of the people are playing. Joey obviously has been the standout just with the hooks, but I think Pretty having a really nice laning phase into Copy early on, pushing his lead while he can, getting the freeze on his side a little bit later, and then just working with the team, collapsing all together, finding these pickoffs as a unit, and Chad moving around as well, having a much better game on the Gwen than he had in game 1 when he was just set behind right away on the Viego. So this whole team, it's just such a nice bounce back to see out of them, and showing that you know, maybe there's a little bit of a problem with consistency when you go 4-0 and then 1-7, but this time going 1-1 and showing why they can go on those huge runs.
At this point of the season, it's good to focus on the high highs because you have so much opportunity to make those happen even more often once you shore through some of those issues. And Darshan goes directly on to Chad, hoping to dish some damage out just to keep this onslaught of Immortals off of these Nexus turrets, but it's not good enough. Look at the slap down. Bomb's even able to zone so much. King throwing some slows out, but Concept, look at that chunky boy, ready to stand in front of the rest of the team. Isles gets hooked, and even before he can get completely dragged in, is immediately popped Onslaught to get some of the fear onto a couple of members, but it's still Immortals coming out on top. They take down 2. King and Coffee. It's just them, baby. It's just Immortals throughout this game to answer back with the clap onto Cloud9 for a Game 2 finish, 1-1 on the best-of-2 scoreboard.
Immortals bounce back huge, find a dominating 26-minute win there, but most importantly, they killed Arrow right at the end. The VIP was assassinated, and there was no protection from Pretty. He just let Arrow die. I wonder if there's some drama behind the scenes there we need to dig into.
Yes, you know, said, I don't like when you left me earlier and you didn't walk with me, so I'm not gonna protect you. You just went to farm. But in the end, I think Immortals showed out really well in that second game. Yes, Arrow being such a powerhouse and able to capitalize upon the damage that he could dish out, but you said it, Mark. I think Joey was such a star in that game, showing what he can do when he's on an engaged champion in the support role.
Yeah, I mean, he died a fair amount in the early game, but it was a lot of times being targeted or trying to peel for Arrow and just make sure that he got out safely in situations where there was ganks coming their way. And I think that was obviously the biggest part of their win. But like I said, I think the mid jungle as well, Pretty and Chad had pretty impressive games, though it wasn't as obvious. I mean, Hook champions are just so clear when they're playing well because they keep just sniping people, and they really picked on King.
And Concept too, just popping back onto that Urgot pick, and then when they did get to a point of grouping, just having him there, being able to either isolate a target or tank up a lot of the damage. It felt like, even though there was a little bit of that inconsistency in the early games, sometimes not quite layering the abilities as much as you need to be able to execute on the kill, they shored it out. And having a Zillion there able to really offer a lot of that utility, and someone like Pretty, who we've seen carry, also have that supportive style, is always going to bode very well for the team in the long run with that flexibility. That does it for our game number 2 of this series, though. So we're kicking into a break, and when we return, it's time for more Academy action.
Hello and welcome back, everybody, for our post-series interview with the one and only support, Joey from Immortals Academy. First off, Joey, I've noticed on Immortals there are 2 players whose in-game name is just their name. So who's going to have to change? Is it you or is it Chad?
Well, Chad's name is not actually Chad, so I don't really have to change, I would hope.
Fair enough, fair enough.
I took the naming rights.
You took the name. Well, you had the name first, so I think if anything, yeah, you have longevity right there. Well, thank you for taking some time after the series to chat with us on a 1-1 split. A very big turnaround from Game 2 compared to Game number 1. It felt like Immortals Academy were much more proactive and making a lot of plays happen. With some very strong map rotations in Game 2. So I'm just curious, who's making those kinds of calls when you're going for those lane rotations? You know, sending concepts to the bot lane and arrow top lane. When you're going for these 3 champ dives in the mid lane, who's kind of the leading voice in those moments?
For like swaps and stuff, it's mostly me and Arrow, but then like mid game back row, looking for dives and stuff like that, mid, that's all pretty. He's really good about comms and like making sure everybody's doing what they really want to do and making sure our map's always good. So probably attribute most to pretty, some a little bit to me. We kind of just look out for like what objective we should play for next and always make sure we're trying to do something on the map and we're not just playing the game passively.
Yeah. I think that's awesome to have that kind of voice. Now, you mentioned the Pretty's name, so I have to ask, was he tilted at all when he saw Kassadin locked in on Cloud9's team?
No, this guy, I mean, I said the meme, this champion's garbage, you can get a pentakill and lose on it, so we weren't really that worried playing versus it.
I mean, clearly he felt comfortable and had that zillion, and it worked out incredibly well with Chad. Also, a player on your team that we haven't talked about too much, and I want to give him some justice. Concept, showing up huge here on the Urgot pick, and in general, his champ pool is very unique compared to what we see a lot of the other top laners playing. So, what's it been like for you on a roster with Concept now, learning how to play around this style of team composition?
Well, there's definitely some interesting picks that he's had coming into the split, and then he's also put in a lot of effort and a lot of work to actually learn other picks that are more meta. And it's like crazy how big his champ pool's gotten over the past couple of days, past couple of weeks, and I think he's evolved a lot as a player. And I'm like really happy to be on a team with him because he's happy to play weak side, he's happy to play anything, and he's just good, you know. So.
It's awesome to see that. Now, this next one's more about yourself rather than the team. It's awesome hearing your insights onto them, but now I want to hear your thoughts on Immortals and your journey with them so far, because looking at your history, this is the first time that during an off-season you're returning back to an organization. So what about Immortals made you excited to compete with them for 2 years in a row now?
Honestly, I just feel like the community is like really nice here. It actually feels like you're part of a family. It feels really good to feel like an org actually cares about my development. Because on other orgs, I played the split, so then I kind of, even though I felt like I did well in some of them, I kind of got like thrown to the side, or I couldn't find a team or something like that. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity that I have on Immortals, because it's just a great org to be a part of, for sure.
That's awesome to hear. And recently relocated to the Great Lakes area. That's close to my heart as a Minnesotan. So what's your favorite Great Lakes city? If you had to go visit one for a vacation, where are you going? Please don't say Chicago.
Toronto's Great Lakes, yeah? Probably Toronto.
We'll throw it in. Yeah. That counts. All right, I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I like Toronto.
As a Minnesotan, we can hang with candidates too. Now, I do want to say, Joey, you've saved me, because at the top of the show I made a bet with Rafa, one of the other casters, on whether or not Cloud9 would go 6-0, and I've already retweeted, I've already gloated on social media, but now I want to give you a chance to gloat as well as the member to give them their loss. So, what is your favorite Sinner champion?
Ooh, I mean, we've been playing the Ivern a lot, and I've been enjoying it quite a bit. I'd probably say I'm a bit of a Soraka guy myself, though.
But that's not a Sinner champ. That's in the church. That's what they're playing. This has to be something that they don't want to play. A Sinner champ.
Oh.
I'll give mine. Mine's Pantheon
I don't
support.
like any of those champs.
You know, man. I thought we could get some spice.
I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I guess
I'm part of the church, full and through.
I didn't realize I was talking to another member. But either way, congratulations, Joey, on the victory, and best of luck going into tomorrow's series.
Thanks.